The latest global stories now on BBC Two Northern Ireland from BBC World News.
First though, here on BBC Two Northern Ireland, just enough time to fit in a scuba dive, and hopefully Darryl Grimison has the thermals on as well.
We've the latest pictures from the Dragon's Den in 30 minutes here on BBC Two Northern Ireland. But first, Mark Crothers with Stormont Today.
We'll head to the lakeside now on BBC Two Northern Ireland for World Championship
The latest political issues under scrutiny now here on BBC Two Northern Ireland with Andrew Neil and the Daily Politics.
Now, your brains had it far too easy over the holidays. Mastermind coming up in half an hour on BBC Two Northern Ireland. But first, it's what they all wanted for Christmas, but we've made them wait till January.
With scenes of sexual violence now on BBC Two Northern Ireland, London is held in the grip of a serial killer and one man must prove his innocence in Hitchcock's thriller Frenzy.
Proving pines and conifers aren't just for Christmas. Carol Klein creates an evergreen island in the Peak District. That's on the Great British Garden Revival in half an hour here on BBC Two Northern Ireland after a journey of discovery with Michael Portillo.
Meet Margaret and her massive hoard of royal memorabilia. She's just one of our collectaholics in the new series starting tonight at 7. On BBC Two Northern Ireland right now though, Vintage Antiques Roadshow.
Fred Dibnah with the building of Britain over the next hour on BBC Two Northern Ireland with fairy tale Scottish castles and fine country houses at 10:45. First, he celebrates carpentry.
Flogget comes from Northampton in an hour here on BBC Two Northern Ireland. But first, wrap up warm for a cool look at the countryside with Ellie Harrison.
The new year brings new challenges now on BBC Two Northern Ireland, but with a little help from Paul and Mary, here's a chance to master those tricky tasks from the Bake Off of 2013.
Another nail-biter from Alfred Hitchcock now on BBC Two Northern Ireland. Two young men commit murder just for the thrill, then decide to throw a party. Question is, can they get away with it? James Stewart grew suspicious in Rope.
So, ahead of the rugby, another battle begins on BBC Two Northern Ireland now. With the threat of a German invasion, the defence of Warmington-on-Sea is left in the less than capable hands of Dad's army.
We celebrate the success of Julie Walters at 10:30 here on BBC Two Northern Ireland. Now though, Maggie Smith is the diva and the show must go on. There's some strong language in tonight's film comedy, Quartet.
Well, for Dermot Gavin, there's nothing better in the garden, but lavender is under threat. The Great British Garden Revival in half an hour. First on BBC Two Northern Ireland, we're going underground with Michael Portillo. The Eggheads are back after their Christmas break at 6 o'clock here on BBC Two Northern Ireland, right after we join Paul Martin.
A deadly mission for Harrison Ford and Robert Shaw in Force 10 from Navarone at 5:30. First on BBC Two Northern Ireland, New Year's Day football action in Final Score.
At 11 o'clock now on BBC Two Northern Ireland, we join the BBC News and coverage of Ed Miliband speaking in Salford.
Flogget from the Potteries is coming up at 5:15. First on BBC Two Northern Ireland, it's the time of year for extreme weather. So how do islands like Shetland brave the Great British Winter?
A 2014 roundup of Mock the Week in an hour. First on BBC Two Northern Ireland, from drama to comedy, from theatre to TV to film, we reveal the extraordinary life on screen of Julie Walters with some strong language.
Wartime thrills with Robert Shaw and Harrison Ford now on BBC Two Northern Ireland in a follow-up to The Guns. But how will this daring mission compare to Navarone?
Michael Portillo begins a brand new Great British Railway journey in half an hour here on BBC Two Northern Ireland after the return of the Eggheads.
More distinguished graduates compete in a festive university challenge in an hour. Now though, on BBC Two Northern Ireland, trekking deep into tiger territory with Giles Clark.
A late Christmas present for one of our teams. It's the Christmas University Challenge final in an hour. But first on BBC Two Northern Ireland, seeing is believing.
Some violent scenes and very strong language now on BBC Two Northern Ireland in a network premiere of A Perfect Love Story until it became The Perfect Crime.
This is BBC Two Northern Ireland. Now at midday, we join Andrew Neil and Joe Coburn for Daily Politics.
And before their diets start, our volunteers are enjoying a special meal, unaware they're being watched. A groundbreaking experiment follows here on BBC Two Northern Ireland in half an hour.
Last winter, the picturesque village of Moorland in Somerset almost entirely vanished underwater. But what happened after the floods? Villagers struggle to return home tonight at 8. And now on BBC Two Northern Ireland, more extremes of the Great British Winter.
Spices and pickles, the key ingredients of the South Korean cuisine, as Dave and Cy discover on the latest leg of their Hairy Bikers Asian adventure. That's at 12:20. First though, on BBC Two Northern Ireland, Michael Portillo heads through France in great continental railway journeys.
The Cockney who conquered Hollywood. The life and career of Michael Caine coming up in 45 minutes. Enjoying ready meals now on BBC Two Northern Ireland, but you won't need a microwave.
Michael Portillo sets out from Stirling towards Perth, then onto the gateway to the Highlands with historic stops along the way. His new Great British Railway journey continues in half an hour here on BBC Two Northern Ireland.
Film comedy quartet starring Maggie Smith here in half an hour. First on BBC Two Northern Ireland, The Challenge is on.